Hello, this is Mr. Yun, and today we are going to be learning about how to solve linear equations through balancing. So, last week we did a lesson on solving linear equations through reverse operations. Today, we're going to try to solve the same questions, but we're just going to try to think about how to approach the question a little differently. The key phrase for today is whatever you do to the one side, you must do the same to the other side. So, just a reminder that the goal of algebra is to figure out the value of x. And I said we are going to learn how to do algebra using balancing. So, what we can think about over here is we can think about it as there are two things on a balance scale, and we're trying to separate x by itself and see what's the weight on the other side. And keep in mind that we always want to keep the scale equal. We don't want it tipping to one side. If the other side is a little too heavy or too light, the other side would tip. But the equal sign, as long as we do the same thing to both sides, a simple example. And let's try to do a question that would involve just one more step. So over here, the question says 4x plus -4 is equal to -12. So let's try to model that. So then on the left side, I have 4 x's and 4 -1's. And on the right side, I have 12 -1's. Now let's move on. So step 1 is to isolate the x tile. So I want x by itself. So I need to get rid of 4 -1's on the left side. Then I'm going to do that by adding 4 positive 1's to both sides. Then I'm going to be left with 4 x's and 8 -1's on the right side. Then the next step is, but the thing is, the goal of algebra was to figure out how much 1x is equal to. And I have 4 x's and I have 8 -1's. So I'm just going to simply separate them into groups of 4. So then I can see I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And then I can see that when for each x, it corresponds to -2. So then my x is... Now, the thing is, we're not going to have the online tool that I just used all the time. So how would we do it if we did not have that? A very good thing, the reason why I showed you the model is so to help you imagine it in your head a little better. But it would be very inefficient if you had to draw the model every time. So here is where the key phrase for today comes in. The key phrase for today's lesson was whatever you do to the left side, you must do the same to the right side. And another key idea behind algebra is to separate the variable. By that, I mean I want the letter by itself and another number on the other side. So over here, I have -9n is equal to 72. And here the goal of solving this question is to separate m by itself. And we do that by doing opposite of what's presented to us. So over here, I have -9m, which means -9 times n. Or in our model today, we saw that there were 9 boxes of m. So how do I figure out what m is by itself? We would simply divide both sides by -9. Then I find out that m is equal to 72 divided by -9, which is equal to -8. Let's try to do one more question. What if my question was slightly more complicated, like -4 plus n over 8 was equal to -6? So in our model that we just used, it would look like we have, if we have a scale, we would have 4 negative ones, and then 6 negative ones on the right side, and of course there's n over 8, which I'm just going to write as n over a box that has n over 8 for now. Then the first step would be to get rid of the negatives. So then I would try to get rid of the 4 negative ones. So then to do that, I would have to add 4 positives. So then they would all cancel out, and I would be left with just n over 8. So I would add 4 to both sides, which is opposite of -4, and I will be left with n over 8 on the left side, and on the right side I will be left with -2. Now, how do I separate the n? Just keep in mind that n over 8 means n divided by 8. So in order to get to n, we would have to multiply both sides by 8, because multiply by 8 is opposite of divide by 8. Then 8s will get cancelled out, and I will be left with n, and it's going to equal to -2 times 8, which is -16. That's it for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.